A solar eclipse observed over Grand Canyon National Park in May 2012. Credit Grand Canyon National Park. This article was originally published at The Conversation. The publication contributed the article to Live Sciences Expert Voices Opt Insights. On Monday, August 21, people living in the continental United States will be able to see a total solar eclipse. Humans have been alternatively amused, puzzled, bewildered, and sometimes even terrified at the sight of this celestial phenomenon. A range of social and cultural reactions accompanies the observation of an eclipse. In ancient Mesopotamia, roughly modern Iraq, eclipses were in fact regarded as omens, as signs of things to come. For an eclipse to take place, three celestial bodies must find themselves in a straight line within their elliptic orbits. This is called a syzygy, from the Greek word syzygos, meaning yoked or paired. Solar lunar eclipse diagram. Credit Tom Ruano, Wikimedia Commons, CC BY-SA. From our viewpoint on Earth, there are two kinds of eclipses, solar and lunar. In a solar eclipse, the moon passes in between the sun and Earth, which results in blocking our view of the sun. In a lunar eclipse, it is the moon that crosses through the shadow of the Earth. A solar eclipse can completely block our view of the sun, but it is usually a brief event and can be observed only in certain areas of the Earth's surface. What can be viewed as a total eclipse in one's hometown may just be a partial eclipse a few hundred miles away. By contrast, a lunar eclipse can be viewed throughout an entire hemisphere of the Earth, a half of the surface of the planet that happens to be on the night side at the time. More than 2,000 years ago, the Babylonians were able to calculate that there were 38 possible eclipses or syzygies within a period of 223 months, that is, about 18 years. This period of 223 months is called a Saros cycle by modern astronomers, and a sequence of eclipses separated by a Saros cycle constitutes a Saros series. Although scientists now know that the number of lunar and solar eclipses is not exactly the same in every Saros series, one cannot underplay the achievement of Babylonian scholars in understanding this astronomical phenomenon. Their realization of this cycle eventually allowed them to predict the occurrence of an eclipse. The level of astronomical knowledge achieved in ancient Babylonia, southern Mesopotamia, cannot be separated from the astrological tradition that regarded eclipses as omens. Astronomy and astrology were then two sides of the same coin. According to Babylonian scholars, eclipses could foretell the death of the king. The conditions for an omen to be considered as such were not simple. For instance, according to a famous astronomical work known by its initial words, Enuma, Nu and Lil, when the gods Anu and Enlil, if Jupiter was visible during the eclipse, the king was safe. Lunar eclipses seem to have been of particular concern for the well-being and survival of the king. In order to preempt the monarch's fate, a mechanism was devised, the substitute king ritual, or sarpuhi. There are over 30 mentions of this ritual in various letters from Assyria, northern Mesopotamia, dating to the 1st millennium BC. Earlier references to a similar late chronicle, a king of the city of Isan, modern Isan Baria, about 125 miles to the southeast of Baghdad, Aramiti, was replaced by a gardener called Enlilbani as part of a substitute king ritual. Luckily for this gardener, the real king died while eating hot soup, so the gardener remained on the throne and became king for good. The fact is that these two kings, Aramiti and Enlilbani, did exist and reigned successively in Isan during the 19th century BC. The story, however, as told in the late Chronicle of Early Kings, bears all the trademarks of a legend. The story was probably devised to explain a dynastic switch, in which the royal office passed from one family or lineage to another, instead of following the usual fathers in line of succession. A lunar eclipse. Credit Neil Saunders, CCBYNCND. Mesopotamia was not unique in this regard. For instance, a chronicle of early China known as the Bamboo Annals Zhushujinian refers to a total lunar eclipse that took place in 1059 BC, during the reign of the last king of the Shang dynasty. This eclipse was regarded as a sign by a vassal king, Wen of the Zhou dynasty, to challenge his Shang overlord. In the later account contained in the Bamboo Annals, an eclipse would have triggered the political and military events that marked the transition from the Shang to the Zhou dynasty in ancient China. As in the case of the Babylonian Chronicle of Early Kings, the Bamboo Annals are a history of earlier periods compiled at a later time. The Bamboo Annals were allegedly found in a tomb about AD 280, but they purport to date to the reign of the King Chang of Wei, who died in 296 BC. The complexity of human events is rarely constrained and determined by one single factor. Nevertheless, whether in ancient Mesopotamia or in early China, eclipses and other omens provided contemporary justifications, or after-the-fact explanations, for an entangled set of variables that decided a specific course of history. Even if they mix astronomy and astrology, or history, with legend, humans have been preoccupied with the inescapable anomaly embodied by an eclipse, for as long as they have looked at the sky. Gonzalo Rubio, Associate Professor of Classics, Ancient Mediterranean Studies, History, and Asian Studies, Pennsylvania State University. This article was originally published on The Conversation. Read the original article. Follow all of the expert voices, issues and debates, and become part of the discussion, on Facebook, Twitter and Google. The views expressed are those of the author and do not necessarily reflect the views of the publisher.